Supreme Court of India, in its recent ruling, upheld the decision of the Competition Commission of India or CCI on Google India. Along with levying a fine of 1,337 crore rupees, the CCI has asked Google to unbundle its apps. This essentially means that Android devices, other than the ones manufactured by Google itself, will not have pre-installed Google apps such as Chrome, Photos, Google Search and Google Maps. This is expected to give a boost to third-party app developers. Google, reacting to the Apex Court's ruling, said that this will hurt consumers and stall growth of Android platform. As of 2021, India had more than 29,000 app developers that published 150,000 apps on the Google Play Store. On a global scale, all Indian apps account for less than 3% of all the apps available for download on the Play Store. Nevertheless, the in-app revenue generation from Indian apps is significant. In 2021, revenue from Indian apps was $60 million. The CCI pursued Google India based on the premise that it was exploiting its dominant position in the market. Not to mention, the tech giant accounted for a whopping 84,000 of all searches. Bing, with the second largest share of search, had a mere 8.5% share, followed by Yahoo at 2.55%. Allowing third-party apps to be installed easily on Android devices and even hosting third-party app stores on Play Store will enable Indian app developers to tap into the market.
The rules of anti-competitive laws say that when a company is dominant, it must not pursue practices which stifle competition. So the bar is higher for companies which are dominant. Google has achieved dominance. It's very clear. So they have to act in a much more egalitarian manner. Now, this is what the cycle of competition and life is, where startups can come up in an innovative open environment, become bigger, and if somebody becomes dominant, then they must also allow for others to come up.
Google apps enjoy a very large user base. Take YouTube for example. There are 225 million YouTube users in India. This is the highest in the entire world. When it comes to internet browsers, Chrome is the leader in market with a market share of 86%. The same follows for Gmail, Google's email service. While Microsoft's Outlook has been gaining ground, Gmail is the dominant service with an estimated 356 million users. All these apps and more come pre-installed with all Android devices. While the SC decision will ensure Android devices will not have them pre-installed, users may still drift towards Google apps because of the sheer presence. So, how can Indian app developers tap into this market?
You remember the time when apps like Google Maps first came to the market, they were pretty bad. The initial iterations for the first few years, people used to laugh at Google Maps app that it was so buggy. But over time, people became comfortable using it, and Google Maps also improved. Comparatively, at least I can say MapIndia's Mapples app is much, much better. And so, yes, of course, consumers should end up using whichever they like more. I believe that the natural drift may be over time, if people give it a chance, towards alternatives such as MapIndia Mapples.
CCI is not the first anti-competition agency to go after Google. The European Commission had also fined the tech major and asked it to unbundle apps. However, its order only asked unbundling of Google Search and Google Chrome. CCI's order, on the other hand, is more sweeping, affecting 9 Google apps. Will Google face similar anti-competition suits in other countries?
I do think that the Indian ruling is trend-setting in a lot of ways. They have taken to the logical conclusion where Europe had started out. Europe was looking at 2 apps, and so they ordered the unbundling of 2 apps. India looked at all of them and said that you must unbundle all. The principle is exactly the same. What this means is that there will be greater choice for OEMs as to what apps they put on their phone, greater choice for users as to what apps they download and what apps they choose to uninstall from their phones. So I think that's really the big change. And absolutely, I see other jurisdictions following suit and looking at this order and taking heed from this order.
Google India has seen a steady rise in its advertising revenue as well. In FY22, gross sales of advertisement space grew by 79% year on year to touch almost 25,000 crore rupees. It registered net revenue from advertising space sales of 2,000 crore rupees. With its app not being mandatorily installed anymore, will Google see a hit on its revenue?
So I see this more as an opportunity for the market. And as a competition lawyer, I've always believed that competition is good for the market. We have to move into the digital space, and Google as a gatekeeper can no longer keep out the indigenous Indian app developers. In order to keep its ad revenues up, it will now have to compete. It will now have to innovate. It can't just sit as the monopolist, keeping everybody else out and therefore making monopoly profits. It can certainly make profits. It just has to provide a better customer service and a better product for that purpose.
The Supreme Court directive came as a good news for Indian app developers, who will now have a level playing field with the tech giant. While Google will continue to dominate the space, the unbundling would mean the company will have to make its product more secure and user-friendly to sustain growth.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.